Hello, welcome back to How to Learn a Language. Today, as part of our mini series before my upcoming event, Grace in Space, we're talking about who the event is for because there is a specific type of learner I have in mind when I'm planning this event. And we're going to talk about one type of that person today. But before we do, you need to know this is the biggest Grace in Space event ever. We've got multiple live sessions a day, taught trainings, Q&A, co-study, hot seat coaching, and more. You can find out more and get your tickets now at lindsaydoeslanguages.com/grace and space. And we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. Grace and space is for busy people who find it hard to stay motivated consistently. So if you feel that your sort of flow of life just does not allow for rest without guilt or sustainable motivation, even when everything else gets really busy and your languages are just like kind of left to wither on the side, listen up. I'm going to talk to you today. So we've got 3 key things that I want to share with you. The first is that losing motivation is really normal. It's not a failure, much like there's kind of this thread running through this whole series. You may have noticed. So with the first episode, we talked about if you're feeling frustrated with your progress. And I talked about those phases of language learning, speedy gains and steady growth. You can go back and listen into that. And it came up again and it's here again. Like just knowing, quite simply, just knowing that actually what you're going through right now is not failure can be a huge start point to then moving forward to some sort of productive action on that point. Do you know what I mean? Like if you don't recognize it as that and you can't get past that idea that you failed, it's going to be really, really hard to actually make a change. You know, life gets busy. Languages kind of slip down the to-do list. It does not mean that you are bad at learning. It's just reality. It's just life. And the real challenge is not to do with, falling off track or not falling off track. It's to do with how you get back on track when that happens, because it's inevitable. So instead of beating yourself up, it's just acknowledging that break, that pause. And like I've said again throughout this week, is Grace and Space is all about just that pause, that moment before we go back into everything, feeling refreshed and being able to restart really in the right way for us. And a lot of the time when this is you, if you're feeling that it's hard to stay motivated consistently because you're so busy, that restart is going to be really small. We don't need to have a whole blank canvas, start everything from scratch kind of restart. It's a restart of small moments, 5 minutes of review, a short podcast episode, a single sentence spoken out loud. And that momentum and that motivation is going to build from those tiny little moments of restart. So when I came back to the UK, like May 2025, a long chunk of that year was spent in India. And I thought, okay, I'll come back. I'll start to learn Hindi because I'm probably definitely going to be going back to India at some point. But the plan was very unclear. Like I didn't know what was going to happen, didn't know how long I was going to be back in the UK, all of these things, right? And so motivation was lost relatively quickly because it was like, well, I don't have this goal here. I don't know what I'm doing. How much should I be learning? How much should I be dedicating to this? It was kind of open. And with that, motivation was gone. Not a sign of failure, not a sign of I failed to learn Hindi or I did it wrong or I'm bad at language learning. No, not at all. When the time is right, I'll be able to go back. And that time was not wasted. It just means that, I know that if I did want to keep going with that language at that point, it would have been a case of needing to then think, okay, motivation's gone. Do I want to revive it? If so, I know what to do. I know to recognize, first of all, not a failure, but what comes next. And that's what we're going to talk about. We've got a whole session on motivation at Grace and Space this year. The second thing I want you to know here is that motivation is not fixed. It ebbs and flows. And we've touched on this already, but it's not something that you have or you don't, right? It's not like, okay, I am motivated and that is that. End of story. I'm going to just worry about doing the other things because I know I am motivated, or I'm not motivated and that's the end of that. No, absolutely not. It ebbs and flows. You'll notice these patterns for yourself, right? What sparks your motivation? Is it like you love music, and so when you discover a new artist or a new song in that language, that's like this little boost of motivation? Is it that you have a trip planned coming up and you think, oh yeah, there's travel on the horizon, I need to learn quickly, there's more motivation there? Is it that a conversation, maybe you have the chance to speak with someone and you feel like, oh, that felt really good. Next time, imagine if I could speak even better. And so that acts as a motivation, right? It's all different stuff for all of us. Like there's not one key thing that is, yes, do this. That is your motivation, because we all learn differently. We're all different people. And also alongside that, not only what sparks your motivation, but what drains it, right? So like for you, maybe it's rigid routines. It's having something that is identical every single day that you get bored, you burn out, it just fizzles, you just give up, right? For other people, that could be great. That could be their motivation, having that rigid routine of like, okay, I'm motivated because I know exactly what I'm going to do today and tomorrow and the next day. And I know exactly what that is for and where it's going to lead to. For some people, that's going to be a great motivation. For others, it's going to be a drain on your motivation. And also with goals, do you have goals right now that feel ambitious and exciting, but maybe just kind of a little bit borderline unrealistic? The goals can be really interesting when we think about motivation, because it's helpful, obviously, to have a goal, but it can be a real source of draining motivation, because if it's unrealistic, if it feels like too far away and there's nothing in between now and then, that can feel like, well, how do I get there? I have no clue. I'm not motivated to even start. So knowing your own personal, like, sort of activators and deactivators of motivation is really, really helpful to then be able to know what to do to reignite interest when things fade. Like I say, we talked about speedy gains, we talked about steady growth. But I don't want you to hear that and just kind of reduce the idea of motivation to find what you love, away you go, right? So sustainable motivation goes deeper than just find what you love. And this is not bad advice. This is always my default answer when, if I'm recording a podcast interview and someone says to me, what's your one piece of language advice? I tend to say, find your Shakira. Because for me, that was Shakira with Spanish, right? That kept me going. That was like what started it. And it kept coming back through this through line. And, I always say that as like my one piece, because in reality, you need something to be summarized. But that doesn't catch it all. So yes, enjoyment is important. Having something that you love is important to keep motivation in that language. But if we think about the 3 Fs, fun, flexible, and functional, we want it to be all 3 of those things. And so find what you love, that ticks the fun box really well, right? But is it necessarily flexible? Is it necessarily functional by default? Not necessarily. So we need to think about what we can do to make it so, right? There's flexible strategies and systems, accountability in ways that works for you. And, we'll come on to all of this in the session on motivation at Grace and Space. It's called Get Motivated, Stay Motivated Without Extra Pressure. It's all about understanding you and where you come from when it comes to motivation. With anything that I share, it's never a case of, this is it, do this, you're fixed. Like, it's just not how it works, because that's not how we work. So this is like going to be such a good, juicy session to help you find your own motivation, sort of like sparks and drains of motivation, and to figure out what to do so you can get motivated and you can stay motivated. The getting motivated is often the easy part, right? But staying motivated, and also without extra pressure. Like, tick, tick, tick in my box for that title. Like, yes, I want to get motivated. Yes, I want to stay motivated. And yes, I don't want the extra pressure. If you want to come along to that session and everything else that is happening, you can join Grace and Space. It's happening this year, 25th to the 28th of September. It is going to be the best yet. We have so much good stuff happening. There's 4 taught sessions, 1 each day, and multiple live sessions across the event as well. So we've got co-study, we've got Q&A, we've got hot seat coaching where you can get personally coached by me, like So excited to speak to you and learn where you're at and dig into all of that. It's going to be so much fun. Plus, you get the chance to join Language Life with a very special bonus package. And tickets are just $50 US. You can get them right now at lindsaydoeslanguages.com/grace and space. If you are listening in the future, you can sign up to my email list for updates on future events and get yourself access to my free ultimate language resource list at lindsaydoeslanguages.com/list. All right, then. If this has sparked something for you, I'd love to hear about it. You're welcome to email me, share this episode with a friend who's working through something similar, and I'll be back again tomorrow. All right, bye.